Welcome to the Seahawks Draft Blog live stream for the instant reaction to the Indianapolis Colts game where the Seahawks were victorious in week one, comprehensively so as well. Rob Staton, Robbie Williams with you. I could sit here and talk about my experience watching at home on my laptop, or we could hand to Robbie Williams. We could hand off to Robbie, who was in Lucas Oil Stadium, Lucas Oil Field, whatever it is. Robbie, what was the game like from your perspective? What was that atmosphere like in the arena? How was your afternoon?
Man, that was super fun. Lucas Oil is a really nice stadium. Pretty friendly fans. Like they weren't, there wasn't a lot of fights or anything like that. So it was nothing to be worried about. Great atmosphere overall. I mean, there was just this energy and a hype about it right from the get-go. The fans were super into it really early, and then they shut up. It's not like a Seahawks game at all. Like they were really loud in that first drive, and then on defense when we were on third down, they got pretty loud, and then it just kind of everything's kind of settled down. It just said they were really quiet, so it didn't feel like a Seahawks game where you're standing on defense the whole time and screaming. So if you guys want to keep winning, keep sending me to games. Send me some money so I can go to all the games.
So what is the story? Is that you've not been to a road game where they've lost? Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Wow. How many games have you actually been to, though? It's not talking about one out of one here. And that's
no. So I went to the Baltimore Ravens game a few years ago in Baltimore, which was right after the riots in Baltimore. So it was actually kind of scary. And it was supposed to be a Sunday night game. Baltimore sucked at the time, so they got flexed out of it. So it was an afternoon game. So it was less frightening. Also, Super Bowl 48. I was there at that one. So that, and then I've been to a Rams game. And so.
Okay, well, look, 100% record for Robbie. 100% record for the Seahawks in 2021. They've won one in a row. Congratulations. If you want to jump in and talk to us on the live chat, then Super Chats will not only support the channel, but they will also get priority, and we will jump to them straight away. But you can post comments in the live chat, such as this one, which just says Go Hawks. And if you want to join in, you can do. So let's just get to the positives of the game first of all, then, Robbie. The big positive for me, well, there's two big positives for me, and I wrote this on the blog. You can check out my instant reaction article, which is on SeahawksDraftBlog.com now. But the two big positives for me were the brilliance of Russell Wilson, because this wasn't a game, Robbie, where it wasn't easy for Wilson. It wasn't just a game where there were easy yards to be had, where he could just sort of check it down and get move the ball with relative ease. The Colts had their moments on defense, and there was a series of drives where the Seahawks were either 3 and out, or they had to punt, or there was the Carson fumble, and they weren't having much luck. But when the opportunities were there, needed to be taken, Russell Wilson took them. That throw to Tyler Lockett, beautifully lofted. That is kind of like Wilson. For me, when I see a pass like that, I immediately think of Russell Wilson when other quarterbacks do it. It's kind of his trademark. He covers zero. I can see that the receiver's got a lot of space in behind the defensive back. I'm going to sort of just loft it up a little bit, that little bucket pass there, drop it in, and Tyler Lockett gets it. It's just classic Wilson. I think that the second touchdown to Tyler Lockett, again, is just knowledge of what you're seeing, reading the plays very well, and then having that ability to execute. How many quarterbacks can see it, but they can't do physically what Russell Wilson can do. They're not as accurate as he is. They haven't got the big arm that he has. And I think that those two touchdowns in particular stood out in that regard. The DK Metcalf one as well is just a brilliant throw, knowing that I can throw it here and no one else is going to get it other than DK Metcalf. He comes down with a great touchdown. Good scheming on the Everett one, good execution from Wilson. I thought that was a masterclass from Wilson, and that is the difference between a team with a franchise quarterback and a team that doesn't have one. Because I think a team that doesn't have one today may well still win the game, but it'll be a lot closer than it was. The Seahawks took their chances because of Wilson, and in the end, it was a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch it because it's different when you watch it on TV compared to watching it live. You kind of miss some stuff. But for me, one of the big positives that I take away from this is just Shane Waldron. I was surprised by many of the calls. I was surprised by, a lot of things that went, that just were it just didn't feel like a normal Seahawks game. And, like a normal, I'm sorry. I got a visitor who wants to say hi.
Hey, Jersey.
Yeah. So for me, I just feel like ultimately, like the thing that was great about it is that it just didn't feel like a normal, like, oh, it's coming. You can predict what's happening. None of that felt the same. And yeah, Russell Wilson played out of his mind. So, I mean, it was incredible. The whole thing was just, really great to watch. And yeah, I'm going to have to go back and look at it. But for me, the big positive was just having that Shane Waldron effect. It felt great. Gerald Everett played, I think, fantastic. I saw him blocking several times, and then also having that catch for the touchdown, and a lot of good things to take away from this. I'm excited to go back and watch it again on TV.
Yeah, I will watch it again, which is something I didn't do an awful lot last season, to be perfectly honest. Watching back, it felt like a more complete performance. I think at the start of last season, when the Seahawks were winning games and went on an early run, Robbie, it kind of felt like, well, it was Wilson against the world. And if you had to watch the game back, you also had to watch a putrid defense, and you didn't want to do that necessarily. So I think this is the kind of game that you can go back and look at. I mean, the thing is, I didn't think the offense really didn't feel that different to me. I mean, I wasn't watching this thinking, wow, Shane Waldron, what a magician, they never do that before. It felt very much like a typical kind of Seahawks offensive performance. Now, look, I haven't studied the formations they used, or I've not gone and looked through it with a fine-tooth comb to see what might be different under Shane Waldron. But to me, it was Wilson, so clinical in his execution of those big moments to take the game away from Indianapolis, to put 7 points on the board is what was the difference. And that is what you should get with a franchise quarterback. And he draws a line under the difficult end to last season. He can move forward now, feeling confident, feeling positive about the way that he started. And it's a great platform to build from. He looked like he meant business. And the other big positive for me, Robbie, and I'm stating the obvious here with these two, I know, is the way that the pass rush performed. I mean, we are a year removed from the pass rush looking absolutely horrendous, from Benson Mayowa playing, 90% of the snaps, and basically us going, well, Benson, you are the pass rush now, so good luck with that. And now he's a rotational cog, and that is a role that really works for him. And he got a sack today, and if he can play a very small percentage of the snaps and stay fresh, then we've seen what he can do. He can be a 7-8 sack guy easily. He could potentially get a few more than that. Carlos Dunlap was involved. Rasheem Green had a nice sack. Brian Monet flattened Carson. I mean, I would not want Brian Monet to be sat on me at any point, ever. But that's what Carson Wentz had to endure today. And then there's Daryl Taylor, which is, I think, where most people are going towards. I don't think Taylor necessarily played better than the other names that I've just mentioned there, but it's the fact that he didn't play at all last year. And people are sort of wondering, what are they going to get from Daryl Taylor? What is he going to be able to do? What is he going to be able to produce in what is essentially his first year in the NFL? And that was a really nice start. I don't know whether he got credited with a sack in the end, because Wentz, he got it out. I think he seems to be credited with it, but I don't know if they go back and take those away or what, or whether they blew it dead. But that'd be quite generous, I have to say, if they do give that as a sack, because Wentz, it looked to me as if Wentz, there was contact, Wentz kind of got it out. He wasn't down. Usually they would count that as an incompletion. But good, I hope they do give it to Taylor, because it would be a nice line under his performance that he got a sack in the game and he's underway and he can build from there. So I think that pass rush is obviously a major step forward, Robbie. And while ever there are going to be question marks, I think, at cornerback all year, barring some very intelligent trade that they might be able to pull off down the line, I don't see who is the available cornerback right now. People will say Richard Sherman, but I don't think Richard Sherman's going to play football this year, personally. I don't say that with any kind of, it's not an educated guess at all. That's just the sense that I get, that this isn't, I don't think he's going to play this year. And if he does, then all power to him. I hope he is a tremendous success, because we're all rooting for Richard Sherman at this stage. But I don't think there's going to be a solution there. So it is very important that this pass rush is good. And that was a very positive first game in that regard, Robbie.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like, they were in on a lot of plays, and I feel like Daryl Taylor, like, even if they take that sack away from him, great to see him out there. Great to see him making a play. I thought Jordan Brooks played well. He had a great coverage, drop back in the coverage that I saw. He knocked the ball away, so that was great. And there's going to be a lot of questions. And it's funny where they threw that touchdown pass where they blitzed pretty much everybody and left Trey Flowers alone on that guy who came around. My first thought, I sat there, I said, oh gosh, don't let, because Trey came up to block off the line. And I was like, no. I was like, don't get burnt. And he got burnt. So it was frustrating, because you could see it happening, and they went right after him, and you knew it was going to happen. So yeah, the cornerback is going to be one of those positions that all year we're going to be definitely questioning, and hopefully there's, they can start getting it together. Maybe if Trey Flowers isn't it, maybe, yeah, he jammed. He should never jam. Agreed. Sorry, Big Mike said he jammed. He jammed at the line and he got burnt right after. He got smoked right off the line, and it was terrible. But yeah, I think cornerback's gonna be one of those positions that we're gonna be frustrated about all season unless Sidney Jones comes in and plays really well or something like that, and or there's a trade. And kind of like what you said, I don't think Sherman's gonna be the guy coming in, but at some point we're gonna need something. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. I like this right here. I'd love to see Geno Atkins in. There was a guy in front of me who after Carlos Dunlap got in for a sack, he was like, "Yeah, Cincinnati should never get rid of him." And I was like, "Man, I sure hope they go out and get Geno Atkins now." It'd be great to see that. See that, because I think we still need help on that interior line as well, for more rotational pass rush or rotational just defensive tackles just to get them in and out. So, love to see that. Still work to do.
Yeah, I mean, on this one here. So, did the offense show enough to encourage the front office to spend that cap money? Well, they do have some cap money, and we've talked about this on the last stream, Robbie. I mean, I'll have a look now and see what it is, because they've just made an adjustment, haven't they, with regards to Quandre Diggs's contract, which has freed up a little bit of cap space this year. And I want to see what Over the Cap is saying. They seem to be on top of this more than anybody else. So the Seahawks have $11.45 million, which is, it's one of the, obviously clearly one of the best in the league in that regard. The Browns have got 11.5, Steelers 11.6, Bengals 12, Chargers 12.7, Washington 14.5, Broncos 18.3, Panthers 21.6, Jaguars 31.58. Some of those teams, like the Jaguars, got quarterbacks on rookie deals. Broncos are not paying anything significant at quarterback, neither are Washington. Bengals got a rookie contract at quarterback. So there's a reason why some of those teams have got money, and the Seahawks have got a bit to play with there. It is going to be interesting to see what they do with that, because one of the suggestions is, Robbie, is that they'll just roll over the money, for example, they've saved on Dwayne Brown and Quandre Diggs, because it's been sort of chipped away this year, it'll just become dead money next year if they move on elsewhere. So if you just, it's kind of clever maneuvering that you create a bit of cap space this year, but ultimately, to appease them, to please them, to get them out on the field. So there's no issues there. But ultimately, you don't spend that money this year. You roll it over to next year, and it kind of it becomes a bit of a wash with that. So that is one possibility. But they do have some money to spend. I think watching the Centers today, that is still a position that I'd like to keep an eye on. I don't know I know they've got the other guy was inactive that they got from San Francisco. Maybe he could potentially come into the mix and provide a solution there. Who knows? DJ Reed did that, come over from the Niners, fill a big hole. Maybe this guy, I've forgotten his name, could do it this time. We'll have to see, but that is an issue. And then there's obviously corner, and there's the Geno Atkins thing. And actually watching today, at no point did I think, wow, they need Geno Atkins here, because the D line was pretty good. But I think it's never a bad thing to have too many guys who can get after it. And the fact that LJ Collier was inactive is indicative of where he is right now. I just don't think the Seahawks have got any faith in him. He's not shown enough in 2 years. The thing that will probably keep him on the roster, Robbie, is that he can play a couple of positions, and it will cost them money to get rid of him. But I think his time in Seattle is running out. And but then we all thought that about Rasheem Green, and here he is. Jonathan Vilmer's saying that he's had an amazing training camp. He's there making a big play today. So you just never know, do you? Big Mike says, how the hell does a guy that is 7,000 miles away? I'm not that far away. I think it's like 5,000. Have the game showing a full 5. I think he's talking about the fact that my TV is on in the background there, and it's ahead of his TV. I guess it's the wonders of modern technology that I'm ahead of you guys over in the States. I mean, overall, Robbie, I didn't really think there was that much. I mean, it wasn't a flawless performance. The offense did have those consecutive drives where they weren't really doing anything. And Indianapolis, I thought that, I've said in the blog that I thought Carson Wentz was stupefyingly average in this game. And I thought it was interesting to follow Twitter, and they would go, wow, Carson Wentz looks pretty good with a decent O-line. I was like, yeah, but that's because your expectations are so low that if Carson Wentz came out and completed 5 passes in this game, everyone was going to go, well done, Carson Wentz, and also because he's been injured. So I don't think it was a particularly impressive performance from him. And he made some plays. They got a late touchdown, which might have been a little bit more frustrating. But to me, none of that really mattered, Robbie, because as soon as Lockett scored, it just felt like the Seahawks were in complete control. For over the years, how often have we as Seahawks fans complained about the fact that games become needlessly tight and anxious in the fourth quarter? But there was no stress today. It was fairly comfortable viewing. You could sit there with a cup of tea and just, watch it and enjoy it. And, you may have had a slightly harder beverage than me watching inside the stadium.
I had multiple beverages.
But even so, I bet there was no point in that game where you were biting your nails thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Because it wasn't that type of game, was it?
No,
controlled it.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think just the start of the game, but it was mostly just the energy. Everyone was, hyped and, it just felt like, oh, okay, but is this going to be that kind of game? It quickly went away. I mean, really quickly. For me, I think the biggest negatives of the whole game is that one right there is just LJ Collier being a healthy scratch. Kind of just, it's shocking to me that, the guy who is, such a high pick for you and he, you're 2 years into this and he's not even playing. It does tell you where he's at on the team and his time in Seattle is coming to an end. And, you'd hope these guys would, be be able to turn it around, but it's just frustrating to watch and have it be one of those things where it's not getting it. And he's just not good enough to be on the team. And then, and then I see a lot of comments about Rashad Penny. That was the other frustrating thing, is seeing that, hey, he's already injured and he just doesn't.
That's because he's made out of wet toilet paper, Robert. Yeah, we've already been over this. That's just the way he's built.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that it was like injury and he's not returning to the game. That's the text that I got when I was on the game or when I was at the game. And I was like, of course, and like, so for me, I was actually disappointed Alex Collins was a healthy scratch because I think he's the clear number 2 back on the team. So, he won't be next week. But it's just frustrating, frustrating that he even made the team. They should have cashed in on the Ravens when they were, hurting it and maybe try to trade for a 7th round pick or something and got Penny off the team. But whatever, man. I don't know. It's frustrating. Those are kind of my biggest negatives of the game. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go back and watch again because I miss a lot at the game. But those are the kind of things that
I have some negatives. They're not about the game. I'm going to come to them in a minute. This one's from Robert Jorgensen. Are you surprised about the Penny injury? Well, I mean, how could you be? I mean, that's like being surprised that the sky's blue, frankly. I think it's harder. And look, Big Mike was going on about it earlier about Hunt and Chubb. And somebody replied, or a couple of people replied, "Get over it, Matt. Look, they're never going to get over this. You can't. It's too big an issue, and people are going to complain in the comments now. That I'm not going to go on about it. I promise. I'm just going to touch on it. But Chubb was literally like the definition of what they look for in a running back. I mean, the size, the explosive traits, the running style, everything. It ticked every single box. And Penny didn't tick those boxes. Now, Penny wasn't a bad player. I'm not saying that going into that, I was saying Penny's bad. I personally thought Penny was good. He was one of the first players we talked about on the blog that season and identified him and talked about him. But I thought it was a good 3rd round pick, maybe a good late 2nd round pick. That's kind of where I was mocking him. The Seahawks took him in the 1st round over literally every other running back in a loaded running back class other than Saquon Barkley. They had their pick of the bunch and they chose him. And when I'm seeing Nick Chubb doing what he's doing today, and you've seen what Nick Chubb has done for the Browns during his time, it's hard not to just go, what were they thinking? And I know we've been over it. What were they thinking? They gave Penny a great health grade and Nick Chubb had the injury. But Nick Chubb had played 2 years in the SEC after his injury. He guided Georgia to the national championship game and he was getting better and better. And when he went to the combine, he performed as well as he did pre-injury. With Rashad Penny, he played 1 year in the Mountain West, was it? And the running back that started before him set records in the NCAA at 166 pounds. That was not, how the Seahawks in their mind, how somebody didn't just say, hang on a minute, guys, is that health grade legit? Because look, he's had 1 year in this conference where a child could run for, I'm joking, could run for so many yards. Did not somebody just take them to one side and go, do we just want to think about this for a second? Let's stick to what we like. And that's, anyway, it's by the by. I don't want to go off on Nick Chubb today, but that's why I will defend Big Mike in that regard, that it is still a talking point for me. So my negatives, Robbie, you will not know anything about these because you were actually at the game. But the first one was that Jonathan Vilman on the call, who got a lot of praise, I have to say, on Twitter, from people enjoying his comments as a broadcaster. But he called the Seahawks the Sea Hags about 17 times in that game, and then he corrected him. He was like, the Seahawks, the Seahawks, and it was like, how many times are you going to do this? It's not hard. It's not hard. Like, why would anyone ever go to Sea Hacks or Sea Hags or whatever he was saying? I don't know, unless that's just what he calls them in his everyday life. And he played for the Saints. Maybe that's what he calls them to his friends, and he just couldn't muscle memory took him there. That was irritating to me. The other irritating thing were the adverts, the ad breaks this year for the NFL are so irritating that I nearly threw something at the screen. It was driving me balmy. And if I have to see one, I don't know who the K-pop band is, the fellas with the blonde hair and everything. If I hear one, they had a whole year of their music being on these adverts last year. If I have to enjoy another year of this, Robbie, I am going to go insane. I have had enough of that type of music. It's a bit wanky.
Well, I'm glad I get to fast forward through this because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I would recommend the condensed version of the game if you have access to it, as we do over here on Game Pass once the game is finished.
I'll tell you, at Lucas Oil 7, they played some great music. I was really enjoying the music they were playing.
What are they like? What's the music like in Indianapolis?
Man, it was all over the place, man. There was some country, there was some rock, there was hip hop. It was just great. They just it was a good mix of everything, and they got
something for everybody.
They just got the people going. It was great.
Yeah, well, I found the adverts really irritating. Sorry, it's a problem that I have. I understand, but apart from that, Robbie, I just thought it was a very enjoyable day. What would have made it even better? And to be honest, this still did kind of make it better. I don't know if you were aware of what was going on because you've literally left the stadium, rushed back, and jumped to the live stream. But I don't know if you knew that the 49ers nearly threw away a 41-17 lead at the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. I mean, as I was watching that, just with sheer joy and delight, as much as I had watching the Seahawks, frankly, the thought that even when they eventually won, it's the kind of win that feels like a loss, and that's great because when at least if the Niners lose the game, the Niners fans get to be really angry for a week, but they can't even do that. They just have to suck it up and accept their terrible win and not complain too much about it, and know that it feels exactly like a loss, even though it was a win. And I just think that is exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the scores and I saw a little bit of it, and I thought they were going to throw it away, but I didn't get to actually see the final score. So yeah, it's funny that you said that, but it would have been great to see them lose. But I feel overall the NFC West put on a show today. It sounds like, or it looks like. Looks like the Cardinals dominated. I didn't get to see any highlights or anything like that. All I know is I do have DeAndre Hopkins in one of my fantasy leagues, and I know he went off. So, it sounds like they played really well, or it looks like it anyway. So I'll have to go back and watch those games as well. But yeah, I mean, overall, great first win, great game, great day. I mean, I had a lot of fun at the stadium, and I'm looking forward to the season now. Like I'm a little more hyped up about the season now. I still feel like there's a lot of question marks that they need to answer, but it's good to get off with a 1-0 start. Yeah, you're muted, Rob.
Sorry. DK's colourful hair has to go. I don't know why. I mean, as someone who would love to have any hair, let alone DK's hair, I'm not going to complain about that. And I don't necessarily agree that DK is Dennis Rodman 2.0. I don't think he's going to be heading off to... Rodman's the one who goes to North Korea, isn't he? On holiday? Is that right? Yeah. I can't see DK doing that. I don't know. That's DK's style. There was another one here. Oh, yeah. Charles mentioned, why the hate for Pete's shoes? This is another thing you won't understand, Robbie. Did you guys catch the commentary from Fox? Funny, but out of place. Yeah, they had this really weird moment where they were like talking about Pete's shoes, and like they were, and they were kind of poking. I thought, well, I'm not. What shoes is Bill Belichick wearing and Mike Zimmer? I can hardly imagine they're going to be going out in some fantastic, $200. We call them trainers over here. I think you call them sneakers over there. I prefer trainers. I suspect the footwear of most coaches, given that they're old men, is pretty awful. So I didn't really understand why they were harping on about Pete's shoes, and I personally don't have an issue with Pete's shoes. I couldn't care less if you went out in. We call again, this is one of those sort of language things, Robbie. We call them flip flops over here. You kind of put them on, and you have flip flops over there.
Flip flops, flip flops, sandals, whatever.
Flip-flops. Our language is met in the middle on the flip flops. Tom says you're showing your age, Rob. I think this is about K-pop. You're not a K-pop man, are you, Robbie? You don't seem to me.
I actually have no idea who you're talking about.
Is it BTS or something?
I mean, it's the same thing. When you start talking about soccer, it's the same thing. I don't know.
They make music for adverts, essentially. That's what it is. They make music so that iPhone can sell phones or Galaxy can sell phones, whatever. That's basically it.
Yeah, no idea.
This one says solid win, little slop on offense, especially for game one, but definitely room for improvement. Defensive ID line rotation looks solid with Brooks, but again, room for improvement. I think that's it. I think Russell Wilson said that afterwards, Robbie. There's still the good thing about this this performance overall is that it was good, it was comfortable, but it feels like there is more to come. And there'll need to be more to come because they're going to face a lot harder opponents than this, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is, just take it week by week. And I'm interested to see how they game plan differently going forward. This is kind of why I was saying I was more impressed with like the Shane Waldron effect, just because I think like for me, like going to games so often or just even watching on TV, I just felt like I could almost call the plays that were coming in, like, oh, they're going to do this. And like, it would just happen. And I feel like if I can do that, then the defense, of whoever we're playing can do that as well. And I felt like that was pretty given. So, I mean, in case in point last year when we tried to run that screen pass to DK Metcalf that everyone saw coming, he was pissed off. He was complaining, you knew they were going to try to force him the ball. And as soon as he took one step and turned around, you just knew. And so for me, I think, it just felt different. I mean, there was a lot of different, like, hey, I hope D. Eskridge is okay because I think he played pretty well as well. And they started to, seemed like he was starting to click a little bit with Russ there before he got hurt. And the end arounds to him are great. And reminds me of that, Percy Harvin effect as well. You got to account for his speed and, it's just different. I think they have a lot of tools that they can play with now. I just think for it being Waldron's first legit game, I think he called it a really good game.
Yeah. This one from Curtis says Jamal Adams looked like he butchered a deer before he stepped up to the podium for his press conference today. But that's because Alan's picked him an outfit. Alan is the style coach. God, we're still going on about that. Yes, we are. We're still, we're going to have a lot of fun with Alan this year, as we did last year. D. Eskridge, I thought, looked fantastic. In such limited time, Robbie, it was very hard for him to create an impression, but he did. The speed when he got in the ball, because you always kind of wonder, watched a lot of college football and you watch a lot of fast players. You never quite know whether that speed's going to translate to the next level because players who look very, very fast, when everybody's a lot faster, sometimes you don't quite see that speed match up, or they have the speed, but they don't make the most use of it. And I thought on some of those end arounds, the occasions when he was a runner, that suddenness was evident with D. Eskridge. He looked really good on the one reception he had. Apparently he left the game with a concussion. It was a really bad hit where he got hammered and then in the head, and then he went down, his head bounced off the turf. So I don't know what that will mean for his status next week. And there has to be a little bit of a concern here that this is a guy who just, is like a magnet for injuries. He already missed a significant portion of camp, didn't he, because of an injury? And now he leaves game one with a concussion. But actually watching him today makes me think they need him, because if you have, and we saw it today, so they start off the game and the Colts focus a lot on DK Metcalf, so you can figure in, the likes of Tyler Lockett and Gerald Everett and your tight ends. They use the tight ends well today into your game plan. You've got Chris Carson, who ran very well. The fumble was a blotch in his copybook, but ultimately a very good performance from Carson. And then you've got D. Eskridge, who just offers another factor, another thing that an opponent has to account for. So they need him, I think. I think without him, they're missing something. And they need that little bit of a different aspect, that different wrinkle to their offense that D. Eskridge can provide.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think a guy like Penny Hard or anybody like that can fill that role. I mean, and those are fast guys, but they just don't seem like they have that same kind of, I don't know, that same kind of it factor, You know, I don't really know how else to explain it, but I mean, he looked, and when he got the ball in his hand, he looked electric, and I was stoked to see it. You know, them, you know, making plays, you know, specifically for him. So it was great to see, and hopefully he's okay and is able to come back.
Absolutely. Just looking at some of the stats here, Robbie, and you know, I think it points out how well the defense played. That Indianapolis were just 5 of 13 on third down and 0 and 3 on fourth down. So that's essentially 5 of 16 on those, you know, those money downs. And that was an issue, wasn't it, for the Seahawks last year? They couldn't get off the field, especially early in the year last year. You know, there were so many third down conversions. They were getting blasted there. And look, the Seahawks weren't great on third down. 4 of 9, you know, less than 50%. It wasn't an amazing performance on third down from the Seahawks offensively, but on defense, very, very good. And also they limited the Colts to 4.7 yards per carry. It never felt like Jonathan Taylor had become a threat to win the game for the Colts. They were obviously very banged up. Their left tackle is not good enough. Their weapons are depleted. And I don't think Carson Wentz is that good. I mean, I saw Wentz live in 2017, Robbie, and there was something there. You know, the Seahawks more or less handled him, but there was something there. Pete was raving about him after the game, saying he was going to be a fantastic player. A year later, it wasn't 2017, was it? I'm thinking of 2016 when I saw him live. So 2017, he basically takes the Eagles to the playoffs, and then they go and win the Super Bowl in his absence because he is injured. But he would have been the MVP if he'd stayed healthy. And he just looks like a shell of himself. He just does not look particularly good. But, you know, you can only do it who you're playing against, and the Seahawks did a very good job there. And they've got a chance to go to 2-0 because I had half an eye on Red Zone, Robbie, and of all the things that I saw this afternoon, apart from perhaps that Niners epic near collapse, was how bad the Titans were. You know, the Titans were just awful. Tannehill looked awful. They went behind very quickly against the Cardinals. It kind of took Derrick Henry out of the game completely. And there's a blueprint for next weekend, because that's who's the Seahawks going to be playing in Seattle, is get ahead on the scoreboard, put the game in the hands of Ryan Tannehill, who didn't do a good job finding A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. You know, they were kept quiet, and take the game away from Derrick Henry. I marked this. We both predicted a win and a comprehensive win today, and that's what's happened. Next weekend, I was predicting a loss, and I still think that is a losable game with Derrick Henry, with those offensive weapons. But the Titans' defense looks awful, and that will provide the Seahawks with an opportunity to get in front and apply scoreboard pressure.
I mean, if you want to start talking about next week, like, listen, right out the gate, you know what they're going to do. This is our first home game for the 12, so it's going to be loud. You know that. What's the Tennessee Titans going to want to do? They're going to want to come in, run the football, establish dominance right away, control the game, get the crowd out of it, and then try to, win that way. That's how they're going to come in. So you got to come in and stop them right away, put up the points early, and this is where you can win the game in the first quarter. You know, make it, put the ball in the hands of Tannehill and try to make him, come out and beat you. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. But for right now, I'm just gonna enjoy this one. I might go have another beer.
Well, you should have another beer. Why the hell not? And this one from Curtis says, Robbie, what was the ratio of Seahawks fans in the crowd? We could hear Seahawks fans at times on the broadcast.
Man, it was crazy. There was a lot of Seahawks fans. I mean, I don't know what the ratio was, but I mean, there was I would say probably, I don't know, out of 60,000, there's probably at least 20,000 fans that were Seahawks fans. There was quite a few. Wow. I mean, I felt like everywhere I went, I was seeing this. I mean, either the end of the game, it felt like it was all Seahawks fans, and we were definitely loud, cheering very, very loudly, and it was pretty great, man. It was a great sight to see that many fans out there.
This one from John says, Wentz looks like a low-budget Rob Staton. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not. I don't have red hair for a start.
Perfect.
And he has hair, and I do not. It's well hidden, just on the chin. Okay, well, and there we go. And Big Mike's giving you a salute there, Robbie. So,
cheers.
So there, cheers,
yeah.
Cheers to all Seahawks fans. I mean, it is a good start. And look, if anybody wants to jump in with a last gasp super chat, feel free, because we are going to wrap things up very soon. But if you've got any other questions you want to just chuck in, like this one here from Blitzy the Clown. Hey, Robbie, how did the Indy home crowd treat you in your Seahawks jersey? Then chuck them in. If you want to do a super chat to help the channel out, go for it. We're probably going to do just a few more minutes here, and then we'll wrap up. So time is of the essence. But Robbie, do you want to answer that question there?
Yeah, I mean, they were great. The fans were great. I'd never felt worried about it or threatened at all. They were super nice. There's something called Hoosier hospitality in Indiana, and it's a real thing. I mean, people are super nice. And I saw a fight, but it wasn't between Seahawks and Indianapolis fans. It was actually between two Colts fans. And the one guy was calling for it. He just turned around, flipped this guy off for no reason. I don't know why. And they kind of got in a tiffy, and then they got kicked out. So it was fine. But other than that, I mean, overall, I was never worried about it all. They were super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is the one thing that I think is good about American sports. I've made this made this point in the comment section, Robbie. Is the one thing that American sports does very well in terms of fans is being willing to have essentially away fans, road fans, in with home fans. Obviously, having been to games myself, and I've not seen any trouble ever. I remember being sat near some Packers fans, or stood near some Packers fans at one of the games at what is now Lumen Field, and there was no issues. There was just kind of friendly banter between the two fans. If you had even one away fan in the home end in a soccer game in England, that would be trouble. That person would be in a very serious state within 5 minutes of the game kicking off. I mean, it would. You just do not do that ever. Go in the home end.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it happen, and it's violent and ugly and not nice.
Yeah, I didn't feel safe at all in Baltimore when I was there.
Really?
Not even a little bit. I felt like, we always were traveling in pairs of four when we were going around the stadium. I never felt comfortable there at all. But yeah, I mean, this one was totally fine.
That's good to know. Any more questions? Shove them in. We will try and get through them as quickly as possible. John says, thanks, God. Thank you, John. That's such a nice comment. Thank you. Robert says, Rob, my question for you, were you surprised that the Colts went for it on 4th down the second time? No, I wasn't surprised, because I think that teams generally do that now. And I don't think it's right. I mean, if they'd have kicked a field goal there, I always kind of feel like when you need a 2-point conversion at some stage, but you've got to get multiple scores to get there, that you're better off waiting to get the 2-point conversion on the last possible moment. Because if you can get it down to, right, you've got to make a stop to win the game, it puts a lot of pressure on the defense, as opposed to in that situation, there's not as much, because the defense is playing with house money a little bit. They've got a healthy advantage. They can maybe take a risk. There's just that. I think it's harder for the defense, Robbie, when they've got to get a stop rather than we can try and get a stop. And teams, they just go for 2 so often these days. And if they don't make it, it makes it harder. So I wasn't surprised, but I personally wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and even the Colts fans in the stadium were like, "What are you doing? Kick the field goal!" They were getting pissed, and when they didn't get it, they were just like livid. I think I saw a couple people actually walk out at that time. So yeah, a terrible decision. I would have kicked the field goal there.
Thoughts on Jamal's play? I'll be happy if he has a good coverage grade. Still would want a bit more. He had a quiet game, didn't he? Really, his most significant thing was the sack that got called back because he was offside. I think he was involved in the Wentz botched handoff in some way, but I can't. That was just a botch from Wentz, really. I don't think that was really warranting any praise from anybody. Perhaps from DJ Reed, who got the fumble, but then it would have been a turnover on downs anyway. So I thought it was a quiet game for Jamal Adams, but when the pass rush is playing that way, then he doesn't need to necessarily be the player of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to go back and watch. I don't remember. I remember seeing just on the big screen, he was in on a lot of plays. Not making the play, but I mean, he was there. So I'm gonna have to go back and see that.
Blitz is off topic, but Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are off to the opposite starts. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and hate to see it. Oh, I know it's just
I hate to see it.
The Packers are one of those teams, that are they're really annoying. I've got no reason to. I've no angst against them, but I find their fans a bit irritating, and yeah. Yeah, I was enjoying seeing famous Jameis marching up and down the field. Well, it's more like Alvin Kamara, wasn't it, really? But yeah, good on the Saints. Sean Payton's a heck of a coach, Yeah, whenever Drew Brees missed a game, they always seem to win with whoever was the backup quarterback. And he did it time, and he did it against Seattle, didn't he? A couple of years ago with Teddy Bridgewater. He is he is a special coach. It is surprising to me that he has only got that one Super Bowl with Drew Brees, because he is clearly a fantastic offensive-minded coach. Brennan says, any insight on the Colts' defensive game plan looked like the second half of last year's game plan that the Hawks were facing? I don't know. I mean, I thought that the Colts defense, Robbie, was fair enough. There were times when they got a bit of pressure on Ross, got a couple of sacks. Darius Leonard was Darius Leonard, but the Colts don't have anything to write home about in terms of cornerbacks or safeties, do they? They were missing their starting cornerback. They don't really have anybody who frightens you on the second level.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, their front defensive line and the linebackers are pretty good, but once you get past that, the corners and safeties, and they looked out of place at times. I don't really know. I don't know what their game plan, was, but I mean, I think we came out and played really well against them.
This one from John says Indy's first touchdown was because Jamal Adams blitzed. Yeah, I did notice that. I mean, I don't think I won't blame Jamal Adams for that. I think I blame the scheme for that and the play call for that, rather than Jamal Adams, who was kind of just executing what he was told to do. That drive did worry me a tiny bit, Robbie. I mean, I'm not going to go on about it tonight, but
that's that Ken Norton effect.
Yeah, there was a moment when Rasheem Green was covering, I think, Michael Pittman or something, and you think, we've seen that already in preseason, haven't we? And then they kept the TV broadcast. They kept highlighting the three bunches of receivers and how they were finding easy mismatches against whoever was playing sort of outside linebacker for Seattle. In that case, it was Green that first time. They score because Jamal Adams blitz, and you get other people dropping, and it creates mismatches, and that worries me a little bit, Robbie, because I don't really want to see a defensive lineman dropping, and I don't want to see necessarily Jordan Brooks forced into coverage all the time just to get Jamal Adams blitzing and doing that. And that's part of the issue with this scheme, that it's great. You want to be aggressive with Jamal Adams and you want to go and blitz and you want to put him in a position to attack. But then if somebody else drops as part of a blitz, then you can create problems for yourself anyway. Because if Jamal Adams doesn't get home, then you've got a receiver like Pittman or whoever matched up against either a linebacker or, in the case of Rasheem Green, a 290-pound defensive lineman.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's like we always saw it in preseason when they dropped Alton Robinson into coverage and stuff too. Or Daryl Taylor. It's just like not what you want to see. And I mean, there are times you want to blitz Jamal. I get it. And so, I think you just have to disguise it maybe a little bit more. I think that's one of the issues that they have with how they play on the defense side of the ball, is when every time, Jamal comes up to the blitz, he's blitzing. I mean, it's clear as day, right? I mean, he's coming up there and yeah, exactly. I mean, he just comes right up and he's blitzing. And so it's like, it's easy to kind of pick that off. And, this is why I'd like, disguise the coverage a little bit more, I mean, don't send him from the top of the safety position after the ball snapped all the way down, but disguise it a little bit better.
But I hope this isn't something that we end up talking about a lot, Robin. I could imagine that we will, because with Jamal Adams, okay, you've traded for him, you've signed him, you need to get your money's worth out of Jamal Adams now. And that is going to mean blitzing him to try and get the sacks. And it's not like with Cam, who is like a fifth rounder who you pay, and you can just say, sit back there, Cam, and be the lion hiding in the tall grass, ready to pounce and hammer somebody on a crossing route. And you don't feel obliged to, how many sacks did Cam have? It was like 1, 2, I think, in the first couple of years of his career, and that was it. But with Jamal Adams, they're going to want to be aggressive with him, and they want to do those things. And I hope it doesn't cost them down the line, because this is a tough schedule. There's like the first half of the season is tough, and then it looks easier in the second half of the season. So it's kind of, okay, try and get through to the halfway stage with as many, let's call it this way, let's put it this way, with as many lives intact as possible, to give you that bit of flexibility. Because there's somebody, I can't remember, it was the guy on the NFL.com, and he was right in fair. He says the Seahawks always inexplicably lose one game a year where you think they won't lose that, there's no chance, and they do. And last year it was the Giants game, wasn't it? You want to give yourself a bit of wiggle room if that situation happens again in the second half of the year. And if not, then you're in a prime position to maybe compete for the number 1 seed, which they probably should have had last year if they would have had it if it wasn't for the Giants game. So tough schedule to start. I hope that they're not going to get burnt trying to get Jamal involved. And I hope that if he has games like this, Robbie, where he kind of doesn't really do anything of note or significance, but the pass rush is working, that the Seahawks don't get itchy feet and he doesn't get ants in his kegs and be like, okay, come on, I've got to do something here. Just no, it's fine. The pass rush is rolling. You just sit there in coverage, Jamal. Don't worry about everything else. We don't need to blitz you. There might be games when they do need to be aggressive, but today was not one of those.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right, we're about to wrap up here. Final things. Biggest surprise, Buffalo losing at home or the Vikings loss? Oh, I think Buffalo by far.
Yeah.
The Vikings are flaky, aren't they? You never know quite what you're going to get from them. They look amazing one week and look pretty awful the next. So, and I think Mike Zimmer's on the way out there. I think it's just a matter of time. But I was surprised that Buffalo were as bad as they were, following slightly along on red zone. They looked in control and then they collapsed and, Big Ben looks cooked. So I'm surprised that,
Buffalo lost at home too. So I think that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Vikings
and the Bengals have got some talent.
Yeah.
The Bengals do have
playing in Cincinnati. So, yeah.
A couple of the ones, Waldron with the prodigy of Seattle, while Norton with the Achilles. Wow, that's quite the
very possible.
that is, but the terminology there, Robbie, that is quite what's the word? Intellectual. Yeah. You see, doesn't that just say a lot about you when you can't even think of the word intellectual? It's kind of like a review of yourself. Is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, intellectual. Yeah. Shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. And this one from John says, just let Jamal erase the run game. That's what he's good at. Very useful for mobile QBs. Do you know what, John? I think it's cool. I would happily just have Jamal. Look, you've paid for Jamal. You've got Jamal. I just think it's just time to just do that. If that helps the Seahawks win, we don't need your money's worth, really. Just do what he's good at. Make him a functioning piece of the defense, and let's go for it. And look, there's still always going to be some blitzing, but let's not get carried away. And if he just ends up being a really, really, really good safety who defends the run well and does his job very well, but the stats are kind of meh, who cares? Who gives a crap? Just as long as the defense is functioning, it's fine. JD47, any additions we could make at corner before the deadline? I have no answer for you there, JD. I don't know anybody. I mean, people will go like, well, what about Henderson at Jacksonville and stuff like that? Without a first-round pick, it's going to be hard, and you don't want to give the second away as well. And who are you going to get? I mean, they're not readily available corners right now, just sort of floating around. Just come get us, pick it like a low-hanging apple. It's just not that way. Brando says Rodgers threw another interception, and Blitzy says, and the Saints just scored a TD off it. Let's all get our tiny violins out for the Packers, who are going to lose in Week 1. That is such a shame. What a surprise that, Rodgers' drama-filled off-season and Jeopardy hosting has led to a crap start.
Yeah, causing issues.
Seen that? Final thing, non-Seahawks topic. Have you seen? Again with Jacksonville. There's already talk that Urban Meyer is like having an absolute nightmare down in Jacksonville. Jason, I can forward an article out earlier, and just saying that it's not going well for Meyer at all. And the players and the coaches are like, this isn't going to work. And then they just got absolutely shellacked by the Texans, who are everybody's tipped to finish with the first overall pick. I think even the Texans were tipping themselves with the first overall pick. And they're banking on that so that they can replace Deshaun Watson or whatever. I mean, good luck in this quarterback class, by the way, because it stinks for next year. But I don't think they were banking on a winning season, Texans. And yet they haven't just beaten Jacksonville. They've hammered Jacksonville. And I think that I'll be surprised at this point, Robbie, if Urban Meyer doesn't retire before the end of the season.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's going very well with him. I don't know, maybe they could turn around. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is, the next coming of, the greatest quarterback ever. So we'll see.
And Flag Sabbath says, with how Shaq is playing, they won't get rid of Henderson. Oh, dear. Is he not having a good start? Old Shaq Griffin?
I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but yeah.
Well, he's earning enough money, so anyway. Well, anyway, that's as far as we go. For a big round of applause for Robbie, by the way, who has got back from the stadium, our live reporter for Seahawks Draft Blog. And, of course, he was telling everybody, get home, tune in.
Told everyone.
I'll be doing a show, and great to have you with us and providing that insight there. And we'll look forward to next week. We'll be back in the week. We didn't do it last week because I've been working away. I've been long drives, 7-hour drive on Friday. Not fun. Another long drive for Saturday. So we didn't get a chance to preview, but we kind of told you that we thought the
we talked about it
was going to end exactly how it did, and we got that right. So we'll end on that now. We will talk about the Titans in the week. Thank you for all of your comments. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. If you go on there now, you'll see the instant reaction blog post, but also check out the last few articles. I've done a couple of articles, one on a safety at Arkansas who's caught my eye, and one on a left tackle from Northern Iowa. 2 draft prospects to really keep an eye on this year. Both eligible for the next draft. One's a redshirt sophomore, so might not declare. The other one is going to be part of the Senior Bowl next year. He's a redshirt junior, so he will be. So check all that out. Comment section for your thoughts. Like the video, it really helps. Share the video, it also helps. Patreon if you want to contribute to the channel. Always appreciate those as well. And thank you for watching us. And Robbie, thank you again for your time. We'll be back in a week with another live stream. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel that you'll never miss a video. And we'll see you next time. And what a win. 1-0. 1-0.
1-0.